Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm excited here to be talking to Merphy Napier. And normally I start these live streams by having someone introduce themselves and tell me about their channel, but I suspect most people watching this probably already know about your channel. So I guess, do you have something I guess you consider kind of the bread and butter of your channel? Like how, I guess, videos that are kind of ones that you're particularly proud of or things that you kind of make a staple of your channel? You do a lot of different creative ideas.
I do so many different things. I think for me right now, my biggest focus on my channel is trying to come up with creative new ideas. So I'm always testing new things and playing with new ideas. Sometimes they're really like I have one really ambitious thing probably gonna take months before I can actually get it on the channel. So I don't know that I have a bread and butter right now, but because I'm just constantly trying to think of what's something new fun that I can do because it's about pushing my creativity at this point.
Okay, and that was obviously something I was going to ask is that I feel like you've really done a good job of breaking out of the mold. Obviously, you do still some of the more traditional booktube videos, but I felt like you've done some projects and things. And I'm like, always, I see them pop up on my sub feed. I'm like, I wish I had thought of that. I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like
Really?
the
Cool.
one from Reddit, I know you just posted, another one where, what is it? Am I the father
Yeah.
you're saying and things like that. And it's like, I just like, where did you come up with that? That is such a good idea.
Yeah, it's really fun sometimes to scroll YouTube and just see what other people, like, outside of BookTube are doing, and then just
Yeah.
thinking, "And how can I make that bookish?"
That's a really smart idea. I do think, yeah, because I know I was watching this video on kind of YouTube creativity, and it's the idea is the hard part is that ideally you're trying to bring in new content, kind of fuse together different genres and ideas that, to kind of differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
Given the fact you do a lot of posting, and you've been doing this for quite a while now, I'll have to back up, kind of get your origin story a little bit more. But I guess, do you find yourself going through periods of time where you just go through almost creative fatigue, like the pressure perhaps to constantly be like, you again, even if you create a really great series of videos, then it's like, okay, you've done that before, and then trying to come up with something new and always adding something.
Yeah, I think as far as creative fatigue, I I'm not sure how to describe this, but I wouldn't call myself a naturally extremely creative person in the hobbies that I choose, and
Mhm.
so YouTube is, like, the first thing that I get to be creative, and I'm like,
Okay.
"Whoa, this is so fun." So,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of creative
Yeah.
outlets, I guess. So for me, I don't get tired of trying to find something new to do. I think when I get fatigued okay, real talk, when I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
fatigued is
Mhm.
usually just when my anxiety is high, like, I have really good months, and then I have a few weeks where I'm just, like, hard time just in my head, and
Yeah.
those are the times where I'm like, "What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I hate everything I do." So it's I love making YouTube videos, it's more
Mhm.
tied to the battle in my head.
Fair. And without prying too much, like, would you say, like, do you struggle sometimes? Because I know I do, where you make a video and you're like, this is going to do amazing. I'm really excited about this. I'm proud of it. This is creative. And I know in the YouTube analytics, for those that are booktubers, you get to see that this video is performing 10 out of 10. And I've had it where,
Woo,
YouTube
stop.
still sends you a notification saying, this video is performing poorly. Do you want to do something about it? And I'm like, nope, nope, just let it. Thanks.
Yeah, no, totally. I
Yeah.
used to that used to really get to me because it's, like, super rude of them to, without your consent, rank your videos and be like, "Man, this one's a real
Yeah.
stinker, friendo." Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that to me? So, I'll, when I so there are certain videos that I post that I'm like, "I know this will perform, like, this is a 9 or a 10, like, this is
Yeah.
not gonna do well, but I wanna do it, so I'm doing it." And when I do those videos, I just don't even look at numbers. Like, I'll just be like, "Don't go into Creator Studio, make all the efforts to
Yeah.
not do that until you post the
Mhm.
next video. And then when you post the next video, then it won't matter because that's
Right.
the one that's being ranked." And so I'll like intentionally go out of my way to make it so that
Mhm.
I can't get too deep in my head and I'm still just posting what I want to post.
Okay, I love that. And that was something else too that I guess, like, so you mentioned you have purposely put out videos that aren't going to rock your channel and explode and things like that. Like, how
Yeah.
do you make those choices? And without, again, like, going, I don't want to go into like the numbers or economics, but like, you do this full time. So, like, I imagine there's that pressure, and I just, because I hear other YouTubers talk about, I'm not going to, name names of it, but it's a real pressure. And it's honestly why I've never wanted to do this full time is
Yeah.
the fact that I was like, oh, so I guess, yeah, how do you make those choices and kind of
Yeah.
balance that?
So when you okay, so real talk, the worst part about posting a video that bombs is the ego. So when you post a bad video that's just like truly, we'll talk about. I just posted a video last week that I knew was going to do poorly, but it did way worse than I even
Oh
thought.
no.
And it was I went on a hiking trip and I just did like an adventure vlog and it was mostly showcasing hiking and I made it bookish. I read while I was there. We talked
Hmm.
about books. And it oh my gosh, it was terrible. But I knew it was going to be bad, but I wanted to do it. And for me it's like so don't look at the numbers because
Hmm.
all that does is make me go, "Oh, if someone else looks at my channel, then they're going to see that video bombed and then they're going to think this and this." And it's like,
Oh,
who
yeah.
cares what they think,
Yeah.
right? So it's to me it's more about ego than anything else. So
Yeah.
I try to walk around where it would activate the ego,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Um, and then I just try to strategize. Like if there's
Yeah.
videos that I'm like, I know you're not interested in this, but I want to do it, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, but buffer that. Like make sure that
Right.
there's videos around it that will perform well so that the algorithm doesn't say, hey, your channel's doing poorly right now. It'll
Right.
just be one stinker that won't change the channel.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I kind of was wondering, I've heard that and I've heard people say it's not true anymore. It is true. And I, at least when I'm aware that a video is going to do poorly, I do try to kind of put it around some things that will do
Yes.
decent. So I was like, well, just because people are like, oh, that's not true anymore. But I was like, well, I don't know.
Maybe it's
I'm,
not. I don't know.
but, but I was like,
Somebody let me
I'm not,
know.
I don't want to be the booktuber to test that out if that's the case. So that's
Right.
too funny. But no, I love, yeah, because I do love that you do a variety of like videos on your channel. Exactly. And like some of them, I guess I can kind of tell being like, even from the outside being like, oh, that's going to do really well, I bet, without being able to see your analytics or looking too close. I think a big thing, and I want to, I guess, yeah, it's kind of a multi-part question is I know you have a second channel. So you have chosen to put your reviews on the vlog channel and you still do like you do full length reviews, you do vlogs. And like I said, between your two channels, you put out a lot of videos. And
I
so I
know.
guess, I know as much as you want to talk about, I guess, how did you go about the decision to keep, it's kind of, I guess, a larger thing that it can be harder to put out single individual review videos because
Yeah.
there's only a certain audience that will watch them. So I guess, and I say this in a way like of praise that like you've chosen to keep doing reviews in a way despite it not being perhaps again something that is hugely going to grow your channel. So can you talk a little bit more about that decision? Because
Yeah.
there must be days where you're just so busy and thinking, oh geez, why do I don't like if it was me that is always those decisions of making videos that don't perform well. And
Yeah, I could give you a long form answer, but I'll keep it concise.
yeah.
So, I love doing reviews. They're some of my favorite videos that I do because, again, I said this before this camera started recording. I started my channel because I love reading. I've always loved reading. That's always been a huge part of who I am, and I don't like solo activities. I like
Yeah.
group activities, and so I'm just like, how can I make this social? And when I learned that there was a community for readers, I was like, and here I am. And so, for me, I've always loved reviews because I love books, and so I obviously want to talk about those books. And as my channel started to grow, reviews continued to just like, oh,
They
not
weren't kind
be
of rising with the other
right.
views,
Yes,
right?
that's a
Yeah.
great way of putting that. That's a great way of putting that. As my channel grew, the reviews stayed kind of the same, like
Hmm.
the core people that
Yeah.
are interested in reviews, but it's not a mass, interest piece, which is understandable.
Yeah.
And I didn't I didn't like not doing them.
Yeah.
And so I was just like and vlogs too. For some people, vlogs do amazing. For me, they just don't. And I like doing them. And so I was like, what if I just made another channel where I don't have to look at numbers. I don't have to care about how it does or, any of the things that drive every YouTuber crazy. I can just do it for fun and post the videos that I shouldn't be allowed to post on my main
Yeah.
channel. I can post them over here and it doesn't matter. And so I was just it's for me if I have a really busy week and it's like, "Ah, I
Mhm.
just don't have time," then I'm like, "Can I make time? Because these are some of my favorite videos to make," you
Oh,
know?
that makes sense. So it's like, I guess in that kind of is, I suppose, answers that question, right? That, when you are busy or whatnot, it's the fact that like, if of all the videos you're going to make, and I get that too. Like there's certain videos, like for me, my most anticipated horror for the year videos do very well. Like if I post one at the year end for the next year, but
Nice.
I hate because you have to do all the research, you have to pull up the titles, and then on camera you have to be able to say the title, the date, the synopsis of a book I have not read, and so it's like, when trying not to do it off of
That's
a
so
script.
true. Yeah.
I hate every year. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is the worst
Yeah.
video. And then you put out and you're like, oh, it did pretty well. I guess I must have.
Yeah, and then
And
you
then
get
there's
the
videos.
comments where
Yeah.
people are like, like, "Ah, I really appreciate this. This helped me so
Yeah,
much." And then it's like, "Oh, I'm
exactly.
helping people. This is a
Yeah.
wonderful thing."
I don't know if you have that experience too versus, like,
Yeah.
exactly, like, sometimes there's videos I put out that again, it's always the passion projects that do poorly that I'm just like, you film them in one take, you go, and you're like, "Okay, that was perfect," and then, the internet does what it does.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's so true. Yeah,
No, for sure.
research-based videos, I always every single research-based video that I do, there's always a point in the middle of it where I start to spiral and I'm like, "Why am I doing this? This is so much work. Nobody's gonna care." And a lot of my research-based videos are lower performer videos because people are more, and this is not a negative thing, but people are more inclined to go to YouTube to be entertained than to be educated. And so they like you want the fun videos more
Yeah,
than you want the facts and informational kind of stuff. And so it's like I'm sinking so much time into this thing that people
yeah,
aren't going to watch, but then at the end those are always my favorite videos that I
yeah,
do. Those are always the ones that I'm the most proud of because I'm like I did something here. I
yeah,
created something. And it's like,
yeah,
I have contributed to the world.
yeah. Do you find over time, like, I guess, do those views kinda creep up on some of the, ones you do? I don't know. I guess I don't
I
know. And
think
again, it's
you're
how much you
right.
look back or whatnot, but
Right, right, and
yeah,
I don't tend
yeah,
to look back on that kind of stuff, but I think you're right because there are certain videos that I thought performed poorly, and then Corey, my husband, is the one that
uh-huh.
actually keeps up with all the numbers and the analytics and stuff, because, like, it's just when you're a
Oh,
creative,
it's nicer to
having
have a little bit of separation. I
it's
was
nice
gonna
to
say,
have a
I'm gonna tell my
buffer.
husband he needs to be my manager. He'll love
Yes,
that.
do.
Yeah,
Do. Well, my husband's
yeah,
a numbers nerd just in
mhm,
general. Like, he
yeah,
loves keeping track of finance and, like, all
yeah,
this kind of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't care." So, yeah, it's good because he's actually interested in it, and I get to have that kind of buffer so that I can just be the creator and not have
yeah,
to also be the business person.
makes
Um,
sense.
but anyway, yeah, so I don't really look at that, but there definitely are videos where he'll come to me and he's like, "Wow, this bombed, but look at it. Look at it now." And I'm like, "Whoa,
Okay, at
that's
least he's telling you. I
amazing."
thought you were saying that he tells you when it bombed.
He does.
No, I was gonna say if he tells you after it's then gone on to grow, that's
Now
fine.
I get both.
I was gonna say because YouTube already does that for us.
I
We
know
don't get
there
our
are times
husband.
there are some days where he's like, "So today's video," and I'm like, "Nope, I'm
Not
not
talking
in the
about.
right mental space to hear that."
That's so funny. Yeah. No, for sure. And I don't know if you count them as like more, I don't know if you'd call them like research videos, but you've done some discussion videos. I actually like reacted, well, semi-reacted, kind
Yeah,
of turned into
yeah.
my own personal thing when you talked about slowing down reading, which I love. And again, I didn't think it as like attack or anything, but when you talked about just gulping through books and I got into kind of a cycle with my reading where it was just like next book, next book, next book. And
Mhm.
my group reviews being like, here's the last 10 books I read last week did perform very well. So it kind of was
Yeah.
that like almost like that toxic cycle. And again, I was reading the books and all of that, but it kind of, I actually, I'll be totally honest, after going and, like basically after watching your video, like, and I kind of talked about myself, and yeah, I actually did slow down my reading a little bit. So I know, like, I don't know if you count those more as like discussion based videos because I hope that one did well because I obviously loved it,
Oh,
which
no,
which
that
is the
did
only thing that's important.
terribly.
Oh no, really?
That's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay, 'cause that was one that I was just like, "You know what? It'd be fun to
yeah,
talk about this," because it was
yeah,
that was a video where I was like, "Man, I there's such an interesting dynamic where there are,
yeah,
like, as you said, there are books that
yeah,
you're just like, 'I have to read it so fast,' and then there are other books where you wanna take your time, and
yeah,
I don't know, I just kind of I wanted to do research to understand that
yeah.
phenomenon better and then talk about it and see how other people felt, and
No,
the
it makes
people that
sense.
did watch it,
Yeah,
really thought a lot about it, and I was like, "Cool, well, then I've done my job because I
you're right.
thought, you thought, we all thought."
No, I love that, and that's a good point. I think often, getting a lot of like just personal feedback almost matters more than even
Yeah.
like the numbers, things like that. It's always that balance there. Hey. Well, maybe let's go. Well, I guess you were talking about analytics and like when a video is performing poorly or not. As much as you want to talk about it, I guess thumbnails. Like, are you a YouTuber that has like four thumbnails ready to go and are shifting them in and out and changing the title much? Do you do that with your
Oh my
videos?
gosh, no.
Okay, apparently other people. I'm not one of them, but I know that is a thing.
That's so much
Yeah.
work. I do remember actually, somebody telling me that that was actually really helpful to them to do that,
Hmm.
to, like, after so many days, switch it, and then the algorithm will kinda toss it back in there and then switch it again, and I think I did that, like, 2 times, and then I was like, "Oh gosh, this is not fun. I'm not gonna do that anymore."
Yeah, it wasn't enough of a like somewhat of a boost to be like, oh, this is
Yeah, I don't
definitely.
think it really made a difference for me, or if it did, I didn't
Yeah,
notice, and making thumbnails, like, I mean, you've recently changed up your thumbnail style,
And
and
I was a long time. I
it
started in
looks
Paint
so
years ago.
good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, what
It looked better than it was. Let's go with that. I
no,
don't feel I am not creative at all.
no,
Like I just
no, what you've been
anything
doing
art,
lately has been
graphics
great.
related, that's just with Canva, which and yeah, a few like kind of automated tools. So
Yeah.
I fake it, but I was like, I want to make my videos look like everyone else's. So thank you for noticing.
Yeah,
Because
no,
I just
yeah, I
like to
think
up my game. Yeah.
yeah, no, you definitely I can tell, it definitely is a game upped.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way as you where it's just, like, I have, like you want it to be recognizable where people are like, "Okay, that's Murphy, that's I know
Yeah.
her." But you also wanna change it up and make it grabby and,
Yeah.
like, all this stuff, and it's like, "Man, this takes me, like, 40 minutes to make a thumbnail a lot of times," and I'm like, "Ah, I can't make 5 of these."
Okay, you make me feel better. And that's why I think it's interesting that you are someone who is, like I said, does a high volume of videos, great, quality content, but you share in like your personal life, like you were a mom to young kids and things like that. So like finding that balance of just how many hours to sink into projects. And like I was talking to
Yeah,
some, I know I have friends that will put, 4 to 6 hours into a thumbnail. And I was like, oh, like I'm lucky, like my thumbnails are kind of, it's for me, it's always the line between the amount of effort versus kind of the payoff or time,
sure.
kind of that balance. Do you kind of think about that too with your own videos?
I
Like,
probably should think about it more.
oh no, well, you make it work.
Thanks. Because I do know that
Yeah.
thumbnails a lot of people say, like, thumbnails are the most important thing. Because if you don't have a
Yeah.
good thumbnail, they won't click, and it's like, "Oh, man,
Yeah.
I wish I had better thumbnails."
And I guess it's also the thing too that I know I have discussions about friends about what's an enticing title or thumbnail versus clickbait. And
Right.
like, and obviously I kind of, we've seen, if you see my videos again, like you'll be like the scariest book I've read or this, and it's always like you're trying to walk
Yeah,
that line between the wording you use will affect the views on the video, but you
yeah.
still want it to be very authentic. I guess, do you worry about that much? Do you have kind of your rule of thumb?
Yeah, I definitely try to veer away from clickbait. I like to do with videos that are more goofy and fun, like the one that you referenced with the Reddit forum, I like to try to do something that's like, I said this line in the video so people can be like, "Aha, there it is. There's the title." But then I do the, what's that straight line? The bar? I try to do
Yeah.
the bar and then the
Right.
actual this is the factual title. This is what it
Right.
actually is. So, like, something a little bit
Yeah.
more grabby, and then if you wanna look a little bit deeper, there it
Yeah.
is, and I don't know if that's a good method or not, but it's the
Yeah.
method I've been using.
I was gonna say it works for you, so that's great. Maybe maybe let's go back to the beginning. I'd love to know not your whole backstory, but do you remember specifically if there was one video or series of videos that kind of moved your channel forward, like kind of caught the algorithm? I think
Yeah,
it's your
I've
Harry
had
Potter videos, but I might be wrong.
yeah, good
Is it?
job, good job. Yeah, I've had a
Yeah.
couple that have kind of taken off for me, and the first one was the Harry Potter videos. Unfortunately, still one of my top watched videos is a video that I wrote. I was eating lunch and I just wrote some bullet points on a napkin and then went and sat down and filmed. And if I had known that it would be the video that would explode my channel, I would have put 2 more seconds of thought into it. But it was the Unpopular Harry Potter Opinions video. And then that kind of launched me into a whole Harry Potter series that was great for my channel. And then, like, J.K. Rowling stuff, I kind of pushed that
Right.
aside. And then
Yeah.
I got into Dear Authors, which was
I love that
very,
one.
very good for my channel
Yeah.
as well. Thanks.
For sure, because I think it was through I'm not sure if it was the unpopular opinions, but it might have been the ones that came after we started dissecting, although I think it was plot holes in all the books, like, you would go through them and be like, "Okay, what's going on here?" I remember because I had I think a newborn at the time and just, like, yeah, watching through them, and, I think it's just great because it's such a series that so many people have seen. So, I guess the first one that launched it was, like, was the unpopular Harry Potter opinions the
That
one
was the first
that
one.
was the first of there? And that was gonna be my question is saying, because I have it with videos where I'll plan out something and be like, okay, this might be the thing that gets me somewhere,
Right.
versus the ones that, like, I guess, and obviously it wasn't you being like, this is gonna be the thing that changes my
No.
channel. No,
Well, I think too, at that point, I don't think Booktube was
yeah,
big for anyone
yeah,
at that point, like, we were
yeah.
all just
Oh,
chilling. I think
we were
it was
doing our
still like
yeah,
yeah, everybody was just doing whatever,
yeah,
and so I wasn't thinking about ever growth or numbers or any of that because we were all just
mhm,
existing as, like, this tiny little sect of YouTube.
yeah.
And then yeah, and then I grew and I was like, "Whoa, what?" I'm like, I've already passed the point of where I used to look at other people's channels and being like, "I'll never get there, and that's just gonna be okay for me,"
Yeah.
you know?
That's really cool, and I like that, no, for sure. It's always because I think that's a tough part is as creators, we obviously part of the reason I wanna do this series is so people can get ideas and kind of have because it's I think you see from the outside, if you're not necessarily in someone's, internal circle of DMs, that I'll see someone's video and be like, "Why are they doing that? Did they know this was going to go do viral?" And I always
Oh,
want to
that's so
message them,
interesting.
but again, if I don't have a personal connection, it's kind of can be an
I wish there
overload
was,
of
like, a Booktube
messages.
Slack where we could all just be like, "Okay,
Yeah,
so tell me about this," and we could
yeah,
just ask each other all these questions and share analytics information and just be
yeah.
nosy together. That would be so fun.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping these streams will be, is a little bit of kind of getting to, get some of that back. Because even like on the last stream I was talking about with like whether or not you do timestamps in videos, that is such a like back and forth and I go back and forth and sometimes I do. The biggest determiner for me is again just time. I'll run out of time
Mhm.
editing and just be like, well, I ran out of time, because it's kind
Yeah.
of the icing on top. I know. Do you have
Yeah,
any
no,
rule of thumb? I
definitely.
think
For
yeah.
timestamp?
Yeah.
I no, I
Oh,
tell Corey
okay.
to do timestamps, and then he either does them or he doesn't.
Perfect. No, and it's just like trying to figure out exactly like when they make sense and all of that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's see. So, I guess, has there ever been a project or video you've wanted to do on your channel that you haven't because you felt it would be too punishing for your channel?
Interesting.
Or just even some that you wouldn't think fits your channel? Go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, no,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think there have definitely I think with me now having the review channel, I think I have a
Mhm.
lot more freedom now.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything that I feel like, I'd love to do that, but I just know it would do terribly," then I either just say, "Too bad, I'm doing it,"
Yeah.
or I say, "Okay, it goes over there, and I get to do what I
Mhm.
wanna do." So, that's just been so freeing for me to have that
Nice.
extra space, but there is a video project that I really, really wanna start, but it's gonna be so expensive to do, so I think I'm gonna dip my toes in the water and see if I can make it happen,
Mhm.
but, I don't know if you saw my tier ranking not tier ranking, having Brandon Sanderson rank all of his
Yes. Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
Really, really wanna do a series that's kind of a combination of that and Dear Authors
Mhm.
where and Inside Publishing, which I did and it bombed.
Okay.
Um,
I watched that one, don't worry.
I
I
loved
was I
that
was one of the
series.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I did too. I loved that series, but just
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of interest. It's an educational video,
Yeah.
so it's less in the realm of, mass interest.
Makes
But I
sense.
would love to go to authors and be able to, like, get inside their study and do a video about their writing process and, like,
Mhm.
really get into what their day as a writer looks like and
Yeah.
ask them specific questions about their books and about their
Yeah.
strategies, and then do a second video with them where it's like ranking all my books. So you get
Yeah.
the fun and you get the educational and I can pair them together, but I would have to do so much traveling and I just can't necessarily justify all that traveling with the money and with the
Yeah.
kids and with all that. So I don't know. I'm still playing with that one.
Yeah. Oh, well, from an audience perspective, that would be amazing, but I can see the things holding you back for sure. No, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Let's see. I guess I wanted to ask a little bit more about you've moved into manga more in the last couple years. I
Yeah.
wanted to actually look at, when that date was. And I guess I'd want, yeah, a little bit of insight. How do you manage? So it's one of these things where you think that as readers, there are and there should and are people who read both mediums, and there are also diehard fans that only read manga and only read books.
Yeah.
And I guess, do you have any rule of thumb how you balance the two sides to your audiences that don't always overlap?
Yeah. So every Monday is yeah, I mean, it's mostly One Piece, a One Piece video, and then every Friday is a bookish video, so I try to do it balanced 1 and 1, and then for the second channel, it's kind of a combination of both, but it's more book heavy,
Mhm.
so I try to make it 50-50, though it does lean books a little bit if you take in the second channel as well, um, that's kinda how I try to balance it. I don't know that I've done it right. Like, I think if I could go back and do it again, business-wise, the better choice would have been to just make a One Piece channel and, separate the 2 entirely. In my mind, my channels have always been what I'm reading, so it made sense to
Yeah.
keep it all together, but there hasn't been as much overlap in the audience as I kind of had hoped that there would be. So there's definitely people that are like, "Well, I don't wanna see that content, stop making it." I'm like, "No, because I wanna make it."
Yeah.
So there's definitely that, like, tension with some subscribers. So I don't know, there's pros and cons because there's also people that are regularly saying, "Hey, you got me into reading books again," or
Yeah.
"You got me into reading manga," and that's really
Yeah.
fulfilling, so this is what I do. Was it the right choice? I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know, I see creators do both exactly, where they add different things to their channel versus, like, the tough part is, I mean, what you're doing with second channel is when you add a whole new channel is like just there's people I still talk to online that are like have no idea you have a second channel, and I'm always like, they're like, oh, I wish Murphy did long form book reviews. I was like, here's her channel link, like go there.
Like,
That
there's so many.
I was like,
I
there we go. I'm
know.
gonna like send them. So I can definitely see wanting, like, if you have your audience already there to kind of have it on, like it's tough to start again. I have
Yeah.
no idea what would be the right choice. So that's interesting that you've kind of gone back and forth,
Mhm.
thinking about those two sides. I know often I think the challenge with, like, just for myself as a viewer with manga content is once you get past the initial arcs of something, as if you don't read along with the reviewer, then you're, kind of have to. I ended up, of all the things, I was randomly watching you were talking about the latest chapter that had come out of One Piece. And I was watching that video. I was like, what am I doing? I'm still in like the first arc. I was
What
like,
if
I
you
should,
keep
this
it
is a
fun
terrible
enough?
idea. This is a terrible idea. I don't understand it. And if I do, I'm sure I would get spoiled
I know, yeah.
terribly.
Corey is
Um,
always making fun of me because he's like, "Man, editing your One Piece videos." I'm like, what even is this series?"
Oh, that's hilarious. I guess, do you have any rule of thumb how you try to manage like sequel, even just for fans, like, normal novels? Like, I always find it challenging to review sequels and final books. Like, do you, like, I guess, do you lean towards spoilers at this point? I kind of know, I guess I've seen your channel, but like how
Yeah,
you balance that, of kind of
yeah,
letting everyone watch versus getting into the really good meat of why
yeah.
you didn't like an ending or why you did like an ending, those kind of things.
Yeah, so the formula I've been using for the review channel is vlogs stay spoiler free, and then dedicated video reviews are total
Yeah,
spoilers. So you just get to pick which video you want to watch, depending on if you want spoilers or not. The only problem is I only review the books that I'm like really excited to talk about. So there's a lot of books that don't get those spoiler reviews.
makes sense.
But I try to, when I finish a series, I try to bring other people on and like talk about the whole series together
Exactly.
so it can be more
Yeah.
of a discussion format.
Mhm.
And I really, really like doing that. But organizing everybody's schedule can
Oh, I don't
sometimes be a
know.
challenge.
Oh, like, I find, yeah, people's schedules are insane trying to get everything pulled
And then
together.
time zones, it's wild.
Yes. So, I guess with reviews, do you think there's certain things that can, make them do well, or can reviews still do well in BookTube? It's like, I think the biggest algorithm question that people are like, reviews are dead, you can't do them. Like, I think, have you, I guess what's your opinion on it
Yeah,
before I
yeah, no,
before I
cool,
try to
yeah.
answer for you? Yeah.
Totally. The way I do reviews is dead for sure. But there are ways to do them, I think, that can work. Like
Hmm.
if you're gonna do a rant review about anything, but
Yeah.
especially a popular book, it's gonna do numbers.
Yeah.
um, but even just like if you want to just review a really popular series for the first time, like if you're gonna go through Stormlight Archive for the first time,
Mhm.
people will see that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There are certain things that will, but stuff like what I do where it's just like this book that I picked up that I really liked, I want to talk about it. It that's not going to pique a lot of attention.
Yeah.
However, the way you do them, I think you do a really good job of batching things together or saying, okay, you liked this popular book, now let's talk about these popular book or not these lesser popular books. Stuff like that
Oh,
where
thanks.
it's not just I reviewed a book, but it's like here's something to grab you and now I'm tricking you into watching a review, like that.
Don't tell
I
them.
think
Yeah.
but that's a good way to kind of
Yeah.
sneak reviews in. I've thought about doing stuff like having a discussion on satire in books or a discussion on battle scenes and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and then just kind of skewing that too. And then I
Mhm.
read this book, and here's
Yeah.
a good example. I'm like talking about it
Yeah.
that way. So I think that there are ways to just change it up, change the format, change the presentation so that I'm still reviewing a book, but I'm saying, here's how to write a really emotional scene. And then it ends up being a book review, but in a different kind of way. Like stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
that there are ways to creatively do it. But if you just want to do like, hey, I read a book this week, I want to talk about it, then yeah, that format I think kind of moved on from YouTube. I still do it, but I do think that it has moved on.
No, I make a good point. I've seen, especially I guess in my little sci-fi part of BookTube, there's a lot of they're kind of called like book essays now, or the thing where it's still a focus on a particular book, but it's like examining some,
Yeah.
philosophical idea in the book and being like, oh, does blind sight invoke da da da, and then,
Yeah.
but if you watch it, you're like, you're kind of reviewing the book, and I don't
Mhm.
think,
Like
and kind
Quinn's
of doing it under
ideas
the
kind of
sly,
thing.
exactly, yeah. So I've seen a lot that are kind of doing something like his that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see. I see it, and I would like to do it in certain ways, but again, you always have to have kind of like a thesis or something, and try to
Mhm.
do it right. Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And I think that the way my brain works, I'm not sure that I would be good at that particular thing,
Yeah.
but I do like watching them.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. I think both of like what I love what in your reviews is often like your reaction, which is why I think it's fun to do the vlogs that even if you're not talking spoilers, if it's a book I know, I'm like, "Oh, you just got to that." You can
Yeah.
you kind of do it in a way that I think is good that it stays spoiler free for those who haven't seen it. But there's certain part you're like, "Oh, she's on that chapter. Okay, now I just want to see you attempt to emote
Try to talk about this.
without talking about it. I love it. So
Yeah.
I think that's something that is really fun, especially, as you know someone's taste and all that and kind of and even if like our tastes aren't exactly the same, I was like, okay, if you really like this or, don't like that, it gives me kind of clues as
Yes.
well. Going back to your channel, you kind of teased about it. Do you have any specific like future goals for your channel or video projects that you do want to share? I understand if you kind of want to keep things under wrap, then
No, no,
yeah.
it's okay. The wanting to go to authors, that's like the big thing that I'm like, "Ooh, can I make this happen?" Right now, I'm just currently searching, are there any authors that are drivable, that are also like their name is big enough that I can get an idea of if this series will actually work and it's something that I should actually pursue. But
Yeah.
most of the authors that I'm like, "Ooh, that would be a good person to talk to," they're like, "Living in Maine," and I'm like, "Okay, I can't get there."
Like slightly too far. No, I get that. Well, even in Canada, I know I get messages. Someone's like, "Hey, I'm doing a book thing in Toronto," and I was like, "That's like several days drive from my house." Like
I know,
they're like, "Oh,
exactly.
Canada's really close, right? Everything's close together." I'm like,
Oh
"No,
my
it's
gosh.
really big." So I feel your
Yeah.
pain that yeah, there's a few like Canadian booktubers. They're like, "We should all get together." I was like, "Ah, that's a lot."
It's a very
It's a
large
lot for
place we're
sure.
in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think you've done a great job with your channel as obviously with this is like you do a lot of collabs and again carve out time whether it be on your channel or taking time for someone else's. So thank you for that. I do think that that's really helped with I guess like growing your channel or is that really just something you do as more of a passion project as part of your reason you love to
Personally,
talk about books? Yeah.
I don't think collabs do anything for, at least for me, numbers wise. It's just something I like doing. Like, as I said, reading, I just wanna make it
Yeah.
social. Like, I just really
Yeah.
like the community, and so I'm just
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I get to hang out with people," you
Yeah.
know? So, for me, this is just hanging out with friends kind of
Oh, I appreciate
situation.
that. No, I love that a lot. Well, I really appreciate your carving out so much time. I think I'll let you go here. I promise I wouldn't take up too much, but of course, I will link your channel down below. In some reason, someone has not heard of you. I think my husband might be the only one not subscribed, so I'll tell him to go over there. He's my speaking of which, non-book, and that's you make a really good point with the booktube community is that there's only so many adults that read. Of like, they do all those stats every year online that say, oh, X amount of, adults read every year. And so we have a very small slice of them that live on YouTube.
Yeah, well, and
But
you the genres that we read is also
true.
just a smaller slice out of that small slice, so
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't know. I feel very
No.
thankful that I get to make this my job. I love doing it, like, it's genuinely so much fun. So, yeah, I'm just trying to keep doing it because I like it.
Oh, well, I think your energy is contagious on camera, which I think is
Ah,
why
thank
you've
you.
done so well. So again, it's been so much fun talking with you. Hopefully this was helpful or insightful for those of you watching. And again, let me know who else you'd like me to have on. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.